Okay, so I've jumped ahead a little bit. I went around with some spray grease and I greased all the moving parts. Everything moves nice and easy now. I tried to straighten the valve stem in the back tire. It was crooked. It's a tube, so it was in there crooked. It wasn't installed straight, so just because I can't leave stuff alone, I let the air out of it, put my little valve stem tool on it to give it a little wiggle and straighten it, and proceeded to rip the valve stem right off the tube. So, put a new tube in it. Yeah, just leave it. It was holding air just fine. Anyways, new tube, and it holds air too, so that's good. I've dragged the deck in and had a look at the blades. They're a mulching blade. They're still in good shape. Not too much has been ground off of them. Well, this side, actually, the sharp edge. So they're still nice and straight. They're not ground where they're all on a weird angle. So I'm just going to sharpen and balance them. They're not bent, so they're still good. I grabbed my scraper and I started scraping. Scrape for 15 to 20 days underneath that thing. And there was hardly any grass. But there was probably about a paint can, a gallon can full of dirt. Like it was like concrete in there. I don't know what the heck is going on with that. But anyways, deck's in good shape. No rot holes. The bearings are good. Spindles are fine. I got an issue with the belt. I don't know what's going on with the belt. By the part number, this belt should be about a 95.5-inch belt. And what I got with the deck is 87 3/4, 88. So I'm going to fit the deck underneath there and see what's going on with that belt, because if I'm going to order parts, I'll order one big parts order and get everything in. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to slide the deck underneath there and hook it up and see what happens. See what we get for the belt. Anyways, like, the machine's got bracketry for something else underneath here too. It's not the standard steering bracket. So it's got these extra brackets here for the plow, but the bracket that's underneath that the mower deck front rod's hooked to is not, well, it's probably original. Well, it's not original. It's an aftermarket. No, not aftermarket. Let me choose my words here. It's a factory accessory bracket. It's not the standard bracket that would come with this tractor if it didn't have any accessories on it. Doesn't matter. Whatever. Let's get the I gotta get these front mount arms off of the deck here. It's just off camera. Just because it's much easier to put that deck in there without these rods on. Flopping around. It does have a strange blade actuating lever on it. Usually they're a cable. I like Craftsman decks. They're heavy duty, heavy gauge steel. They're relatively simple, and they just work. So this rod hooks to something. We'll see when we get under there. But this is the actuating rod. So this is what hooks. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can probably see it. This hooks up to the lever. Usually that lever runs a cable that pulls on the pulley and tightens it. But this one here is this rod. Haven't seen it before. So when you pull on the rod, it's tight, but pull on the rod to that point, it tightens the belt. It cams two arms here on the top of the deck. Might be able to see them. Cams those arms out, and that releases the brakes on the spindles, these little brakes. It's all a little stiff. It's not bad. Everything does move. It's not seized. I've seen lots of these seized. So let's just get some penetrating oil on it and lube that up. There we go. Just make sure everything moves freely. We got a pivot here. We got a roller here. Another pivot here. Give this a little soak. Let it work its way underneath. Pivot here on the rod. I use a lot of penetrating oil in this stuff because grease tends to gather the dirt, and then it seizes worse. So, penetrating oil. Get some underneath there in the pivot. So here's a spring moving there. The contact area there for where the cam goes over. That's that. Might as well lube that and that and that. This arm's on the wrong side. It has to go onto this side. That's one of the, this arm, if you're into race cars, this would be like the panhard bar. It locates the deck laterally. That's a word. Laterally. Not literally, laterally. Oh, that works easier already. I'm working against cams here that I don't have any mechanical advantage, no leverage here. But anyways, that's here and there. Bearings on the idlers are good. We'll just fill them up the top with penetrating oil. It'll likely work its way through the seals on the bearing. Just give a little helping hand. They're working, they're not growly, they're not seized. It's just easier to do this stuff now. Later on, after I get the blade sharpened, I can just lift the tractor up off the stand here and slide the blades under. Let's get her under there. Don't know where this one goes. We'll put it there. Okay, that looks about right there. Get our panhard bar on there. That'll locate it left to right for us. And all the bars and everything, all the mounts are on the deck, but there are no hairpins with the tractor. So, got an assortment here. We'll just start clipping clips in until all the holes are filled up. Okay, there's that one. Where are we looking here? That's the actuating rod, which is, nope, wrong way. Looks like the actuating rod goes to the front. I need my pliers. Pull that one out. Pull that out. I can't get you guys under there. So there's one there. It looks like both those rods might go to the front. Maybe? What am I looking at here? Where in the heck? Oh, I see where it goes. Uh-huh. Well, that'll do it. Okay, let's figure it out. Let's get that one back down. Need a rod. Pin in the end of this rod. Yep. Okay, let's get that stuck back in there where it was. Yeah, I apologize, guys. I can't get everybody in here and do all the wheeling and moving and showing stuff. It just doesn't work. Yeah, Yeah, so this Craftsman, I've done a lot of Craftsmans, but this one's just a little bit different. Okay, so the two rods that I showed you, the one I didn't know, that is the one that actually hooks to the lever, and then the rod that I was actuating, moving the pulleys and everything, that is the one that's connected to it. So there's two rods that do the work. That's why it was harder to figure out, but let's get our front rods in. Get those in there, because it's damn near impossible to get those in after once you get everything else in there. Okay. Get in there. Okay. 2 cotter pins for those. One there, one on the other side. Ooh, that's stiff. New cotter pins. So I'm going to lower the this deck lever, lower it down to a point where it looks like I can get things aligned and hooked on. That's your lift arms. Like I said, aligned. There. It'll lift the front of the deck to get that one in. That needs a pin. And this one, of course, is on the wrong side of the deck. There we go. Lift the front and slide her in. Need 2 pins for that. I got this assortment. I rarely use any other. I use like 2 sizes out of it. Let's do this one. Nope, doesn't fit in a hole. Oh, a rusty one. We'll try that one. No. Fine. Put this one in there. Yep, that one works. Can I reach the other one from here? Ah, it's got my thumb. Oh yeah, she's in, baby. So that's that and that and that and that. Get a little lube on that pivoting arm, top and bottom. Might as well get our panhard bar in there. Panhard bar. It's not a race car. It's not a racing car. It's not. I gotta do the deck engagement arm on the other side. Just a pin in it. Well, I gotta lift it up, put the pin in it. Then our blade engagement lever should work. That's not the right size pin. Why are you in the wrong spot? Again, again, again. And the last one goes there. Right there. Can't see squat. It's dark on this side. There we go. 1 pin in. Well, that's that. Will it lift? Yeah. Could possibly lift higher, but it's lifting. Deck engagement is moving the pulleys as it should. Yep. So that's good. Okay, we're gonna go with it. And now, after my coffee, I'm gonna throw the belt back on there and see what shakes out. It's not hard to get the belt in there even when it's all together. I might just take this off. Oh, actually, that belt slides right in behind it, so yeah. That poor coffee. Back in a sec. Okay, so I had the thing hung underneath there and it was kind of tilted, so I adjusted the far side hanger, the lift bracket. That's where the adjustments are. There's one on each side on this. Where in MTDs, most MTDs that I've worked on, there's one rigid one and just one side adjusts, so you can only adjust it from one end. These actually adjust from both ends. Whatever, it works. So I used this deck leveling tool the best as I could underneath there. My hoist isn't quite perfectly level because it's got extensions on it. There's a center section that's rigid and then two removable outside sections, and they're not perfectly level with the center of the deck. So I mean, it doesn't matter as far as the use of the hoist, but when you go to level a deck, it can matter. So I just put the tool on the center section of the deck so it's repeatable left to right. And I reached it in as far as I could with the blade, and I had the same measurement left to right, so that's golden. I did have to unclip some of the lift brackets to get the old belt in it, and it fits perfectly fine. So it is what it is. It's 87 3/4. There's just a little bit of spring tension on it. So the way that this works is the lever, there's a compression spring. So the lever moves forward to engage the blades, and the blades engage and puts the idler against the belt to tension it. And then once that slack is taken up, you push against a compression spring on that lever and hook it. And that's what gives you your tension on the belt. There's no springs on the deck, which is the only one like this I've seen. Most of the Craftsmans have a spring-loaded arms and everything on the deck. This one has none. They also use the cable, and the cable has a spring on it. So when you pull the lever, it takes up all the slack, and then the spring on the cable actually stretches, and that's where your tension is. So this belt measures 87 3/4. So what I did was I ordered an 87.5-inch belt, and that'll give us a little more tension on that spring, because this one, it just barely compresses that spring. So I want to give it a little bit more tension and put the new belt on there, and that'll be fine. When the new belt comes in, I'll have to take this one off and I'll have to drop the linkage again, but that's working. That's golden. The tension is okay. I'd like a little bit more, but it is what it is. Blades are sharpened and balanced and installed. Like I said, the spindles are good. We've greased everything. There really isn't a whole bunch more to do with this tractor. I still got to get the blade back in here and get it set on there. It's got a bit of a twist to it, so I want to basically use a floor jack and twist it the other way. It's probably hit something in its lifetime, jammed into dirt or a rock or I don't know, something. But it's got a bit of a twist to it, so I'd like to do that. I got to put a spring, figure out a spring for the pivoting lock, because you can squeeze the lever down and it unlocks it, but there's nothing to actually pull that lock back in and lock the blade into the position you want it. So that's just a matter of hooking a spring up somewhere. Got to get a spring, then make it work somewhere. Then I've got to paint it. Of course, got to paint it. It's got to be bright yellow. Yellow's good. It'll catch your eye. The bagger system it's all in the shed. It's all golden. It's all working just fine. So now I think maybe, well, the hood's got a bit of a crack in it. Maybe I'll work on that a little. I got to take that god-awful LED off the hood. I might end up on my truck as a reverse light. Maybe. Figure out how to get the original headlights working again, because that's what I like. I like original. So, yeah, we'll do that. I think we'll get on the hood here. So I managed to get the hood on there. It's pretty broken. I can't really do a whole bunch with it. I did bend some of the brackets a little bit so to make the hood drop nice and level because it was like way over to one side and then kind of bent over when it closed. So that's all straightened out. And the harness was tore out of it. The original headlight harness was missing, MIA. That LED that was screwed to the top here was just spliced into the wiring, so there was no plug together. So I happen to have an old headlight harness out of an MTD tractor, and I just made it work with this. Cut the ends off, put a couple of spade connectors on there, and they work. They work just fine. Next, well, I noticed there was a little bit of sparking on that the ground cable to the battery. The terminal's not that good, so I'll probably end up just making a new ground cable for it. It's only about that long. It just kind of goes from the battery under the box and just screws into the frame. So I'll probably just maybe I'll just get a cheap battery cable and just bolt it on there. A lot easier than making one. Got all the tools. I'll just solder around new ends and everything, but I think cheap battery cable will work just fine. That'll do for us. So I guess next I gotta move on to the blade. That's gonna be grinding and painting, because that's gotta look good. I don't care about the paint on the tractor, but the blade has to look good. So yeah, that's where we're at. I think I'll do the battery cable, then I'll get this thing out of here, and then I'll bring the blade in and start working on that. Okay, on to the negative battery cable. The original got pretty hot at one point, I'd say. It was sparking right in this crimp when I cranked the tractor, so whatever. I don't know what gauge that is. 6 maybe. Maybe 8. I don't know. This is 4. This should do it. This will do it. So if you're going to solder these lugs on there, you can stick a lug in the vise. Make sure it's just a little of it. Otherwise the vise becomes a heat sink and soaks up all the heat you need to solder it. So there's just going to use one of these little torches. You can use a propane torch or whatever. This is just a little butane one. These are pretty hot. They work pretty good. So solder will flow to the heat. So you want to heat the bottom of this, and hold your solder on the top, and just feed it to the onions. Eventually it'll start to flow in. I'm using rosin core solder, not plumbing solder. I actually see it starting to tin the copper wire. Starting to flow up the wire because that's the heat's going up there. So we're just going to fill this up. This way you don't have to crimp them. You can still crimp it and solder it or do whatever, but I know that the solder joint will last forever. Oh, too much heat there, starting to melt the insulation. Just keep feeding her solder till it's full up. Here we go. That'll do it. That's it. Let her cool, and it should be fine. Now, if you overflow that solder, there's a chance of rosin, the center of this, will flow down over there and down over the terminal that you're trying to solder. And if that happens, rosin is basically a plastic once it hardens up, so you won't have any contact. I've seen it happen. So that's that. Stop moving. It's not shaky, so we should be good to bolt that sucker down there. Man, that's a nice heavy cable now. 4 gauge. That ain't going nowhere. Alright, we'll get that bolted on. Well, there we are. The blade has been sandblasted, epoxy primed, and painted. And we got some snow. Hasn't been sitting out here that long, but we've got a lot of snow. So, this is where we're going to close off this video. Thanks again for joining me. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And until the next video, take care.